Over the last few years, much has been made in some circles of young men's failure to launch. A few different articles have been written about this phenomenon, and they're usually posed by asking the question, where have all the good men gone? When phrased this way, the question actually has nothing whatsoever to do with what the men want. It's all about women not being able to find suitable partners, husbands, or fathers for their children. It's about high schools not being able to fulfill their mandate of graduating as many students as possible. The same can be said for trade schools and degree-granting institutions. For governments, it's about having fewer productive workers contributing to the country's GDP. It's also about the loss of productive years of a segment of its working population. I'm a big fan of following the money in this society, and part of the concerns do come down to money. Women are worried about having fewer men with enough resources that they deem appropriate. Remember that hypergamy dictates that despite what women say about wanting a man on their level, they don't. They want a man above their level. As Dr. Warren Farrell has said, while a woman may sleep with a man who makes less money than she does, very few will marry and have children with the same man. Given the social programs that we already have in place, it's not surprising then that more and more women are choosing to become single mothers if they don't find men that they deem appropriate or even necessary. For the education system, it's important to remember that for all levels of education, the amount of funding that they are able to attract from public and private sources is contingent on the number of students who successfully complete the program. It's my cynical projection that we won't see a serious concern regarding the educational outcome of boys until it seriously begins to impact the bottom lines of these same systems. Finally, there is the government, which, as this problem of failure to launch grows, will find itself faced with a dilemma. For most Western countries, women form a majority of the electorate. Because of this, governments who wish to stay in power find it necessary to pander to this bloc. Like other groups, this is usually done by the expansion of programs, or to put it more colloquially, throwing money down a hole. The problem for governments becomes one where if enough men drop out of the system, they will require more social programs to either support, sustain, or educate them. If the government explicitly creates programs specifically to help men and boys, then they face a backlash from the very same group that casts the most votes. Women. If they don't target specifically for men and boys, they're less likely by their very natures to respond to the programs. Let's think about the three primary roles that have been historically held by men. These are protect, provide, and worker bee. All three of these roles have something in common. They are all driven by service to someone or something other than the man himself. They all have the possibility for partial or total disposability. Now, I'm hoping that you're ahead of me at this point, but I have to say it anyway. If we've spent more than the last 40 years telling men, whose primary roles are motivated by service, that they aren't necessary, it should be obvious why men are dropping out. They are not broken, confused, defective, or lazy. They are simply responding in varying degrees to what they've been told. In short, men have ears, and they've listened to what society has told them. Men don't exist in a vacuum. When they've seen hard-working fathers lose jobs because they were redundant, for example, they lose respect for the role of work. If they see clearly that going to university and accruing student debt may mean that at the end of the day, would you like fries with that, or how's your coffee, becomes part of their life even with a degree, they devalue the role of the student. If they've seen men become decimated by divorce, live in poverty, or even go to jail because they can't afford to pay the child support and the alimony, well then they devalue the role of protector and provider and worker bee. In a perverse way, even working hard to accrue resources before marriage can be de-incentivized. If a man worries that having more to show for his work means that he's more likely to attract a woman who will bleed him dry in the short or long term. If he's afraid of this, why would he bother to work hard? Would it not be easier to work minimally and avoid the potential pain? Thus the phrase, "Where have all the good men gone?" displays a fundamental failure of some people to understand men. Good men are not formed out of nothingness. They are formed out of a desire to serve. With the destabilization of these primary roles, the necessity to become a good man for many men simply falls away. Attempts to shame or strong-arm men back into these roles will increasingly fail as long as the fundamental concerns remain unaddressed. Man up simply isn't going to do it anymore. Thus, people like Kay Heimowitz are flawed in their thinking by complaining that men are failing to launch. Think for a moment about a rocket ship. Just as important as all of the physical things that one needs to launch the rocket is a destination. Now I ask you, would you go through all of the work to get to a destination that you've been told you're not wanted or needed at? Would you bother building the rocket, the launch pad, acquiring the fuel, and doing the calculations, and all the rest of the preparations? Or would you simply not bother and just walk away? It's taken me a very long time to get here, but this is a very important point as it relates to MGTOW. If MGTOW feels painful at times, it's because we're doing something that falls outside of the paradigm of the standard male roles. Many of us don't realize how motivated we are by the concerns of others. We go to school, choose careers, places to live, clothing, and even automobiles based on how others will perceive us. Consider for a moment the number of men that you may know who are stuck in this sense of suspended adolescence. I think that looking at it this way is incorrect. These men are in this state because there is no role that's presented to them. Think about it. Can you think of a positive male solitary role that is presented in society that doesn't hinge on utility or disposability? The misunderstood loner that saves the day? The hapless, perpetually single guy in the sitcom that just can't figure out the world? The drag queen with the heart of gold? I didn't really realize this point until I noticed something. I was sick a few months ago, and I called a couple of my older male relatives because I was feeling sorry for myself. One told me that I needed to find a good woman to bring me some soup, and the other said I needed to find a woman who would let me stick her boob in my mouth to make myself feel better. That's when it struck me. One of those invisible phrases that I had been hearing for fucking ever. You need to find a good woman to settle you down. You need to find a woman to take care of you. Think about the implication of that a single man can't, on his own, settle down. It's really that a single guy can't possibly take care of himself, that he needs a woman to whip him into shape, and that it's only through caring for a wife and children that he ultimately learns how to take care of himself. That somehow, without this, they are stuck in this state of suspended adolescence, a child man in the promised land. This idea, to me, is the central one behind why thousands of men aren't really doing anything. They're stuck because they're waiting to fulfill the next part of the script. It hasn't even occurred to them to do whatever the hell they want to as fully grown, fully capable adults, defined by themselves and not by their utility or disposability to others. Given that being of service is such a strong part of male nature, I'm not asking you to give that up. Let's face it, being of service can feel great. What I am saying is that you can choose how you want to be of service. A few months ago, I saw a man sitting on the sidewalk in the rain with a garbage bag beside him. To most people, he was probably invisible. But given what I've learned about homelessness, suicide, and the lack of resources for men, I pulled $20 out of my wallet, walked across the street, and gave it to him. I didn't want a long story, and he probably didn't want to tell me one. I wanted to help him and let him know even if it was just for that moment, that, to me, he was visible. I wanted him to have the option of doing whatever that $20 would allow him to do. I'll never see him again, and that's fine. And other than this video, nobody knows what I did. And that's important to me. Stéphane Molyneux of Free Domain Radio made a great point when I was listening to him a few weeks ago. Specifically, he said that one of the reasons that religion sustains its power in America is that the right and the religious understand that they need money to function. They put their money where they think it's important. Now, I'm not telling you to pick a side, religious or otherwise, because to me it's just different sides of the same hockey puck. The point that it relates to is the why I gave that man $20. If I'm not going to stick my hand in my pocket and help the man that I recognize as a human being and not a human doing, then who is? What the hell is the point of seeing him when he's invisible to most people because he has no utility to them if I'm not willing to help him? I helped him because I know how hard it is for men to ask for help and how much harder it is for men to get that help. My feeling is that if I really believe that men need the option of going their own way, then I should be helping others to go their own way. Finally, I've been making a joke among some of my friends about how hard it must have been for the Wright brothers to invent the airplane with their wives nagging at them. You're trying to what? Fly? Nobody flies. I gotta fold these clothes. We gotta feed these children. You're wasting your time. I'm leaving you. Last week, watching one of Sandman's videos, I learned that the Wright brothers were bachelors. Seize the day. And remember, man up, how about man out? MGTOW.